Hey, it's the Unsmooth Criminal, and I'm hyper from talking on the Discord. If you guys ever want to talk to me, you can just go onto the Discord and have some fun. And Mina, I know you're watching this because you call me Grandpa until this one comes out. But this is going to be a redo of part one for what if Femme Deku was John from Unordinary. So, let's get on to it. Or into it, whatever you want to say. So John is a female in this one. And I'm going to say the ship now. It's the same one as in Unordinary. Just saying. So, we start with a girl in a cell. And there's a book in front of her. And a man walks in. And he uses his quirk. And she starts to yell again. She starts to yell. She starts to uncontrollably. He starts shaking in fear. And he goes, good. So now you know not to do it again. And she just nods on the verge of tears. Because she is terrified of what's happening. And so he goes, now you can leave. My work is done here. And what she saw was her going through the entire school and killing every single one of them. Her friends, the people she cared about, that she thought at one point betrayed her, but she figured out, because she's a little smarter in this one than what John originally was, that they were trying to help her. So she is very paranoid of who to trust, and so she counts herself as quirkless now. Even though she does have cat ears and a cat tail, but she counts herself as quirkless. All she has is a cat quirk, to where she has the ears and tail, that's it. So she gets into UA, and this is the most prestigious school in Japan, and Nezu knows her situation and knows that she can blow up at any point. And he keeps in contact with the person that helped rehabilitate her. So the hierarchy is in this school of kings, queens, jesters, jokers, or jesters, jacks, aces. That hierarchy is still in the school, and everybody is scared of the kings and queens because they're the most powerful people in school. But they actually aren't. But let's get onto that later. So we go to Joe walking in through the front gates of UA for the first time, and she walks to the dorms. And she puts her stuff in her room, and she's just sitting there now. She's just sitting there waiting for the bell to ring so she can go to class. Because she doesn't want to talk to much people. And I'm going to skip over this year, and nothing important has happened this year. But this is the first year that she's in UA. And she meets this girl named Serafina. And she starts talking to her, and Serafina's kind of chill. She likes Joe. And they're talking and talking. And Serafina mentions, or says, where did you come from? And Joe says, nowhere in particular. Just across the pond from you guys. And Serafina goes, America? And she goes, yeah. I gotta transfer to Japan because, yeah. And she doesn't go into much detail. Serafina's like, okay. That's a little strange. But I guess I have to believe her. So, Serafina is currently Joe's friend through the entire first year. And the king sees this. I'm not saying who the king is yet, but the king sees this, and he's fucking pissed. Because he's had a crush on Seraphina since he first met her. And he thinks that he's the end-all be-all in strength. You probably know who he is now. But he's not. And this is before the second year has started. This is during summer. Seraphina had to go on a trip, a family trip, family vacation. And Jo was at the dorms, just minding her own business, and the king walks into her room and says, "Man, this is what an extras room looks like." And his little posse of 2 people that are not very smart and not very bright, because they follow him, walk into the room too. And they start laughing at Jo for having pretty much nothing on her walls and only having a book. And Bakugo walks up to the book and says, "Unordinary. Yeah, you're unordinarily weird." And he throws the book out the window. And she jumps out the window after it. Normal people wouldn't do that or wouldn't survive that. But she jumped out after it. And he's like, "The fuck is she doing?" And she hit him on the way out. And no, I am not giving her the exact ability of John of aura manipulation. I'm giving her complete quirk copying. So what her quirk is she can touch somebody and then have their quirk infinitely until she touches somebody else, which then she could decide to keep or change out the quirks. So Jo touched Bakugo and took his quirk. And so she used a few explosions, a small explosion, so no one noticed, to cushion her landing. And she lands like a cat with her feet. And she looks pissed off. And she opens it and sees her dad's signature on it. And she starts to calm down very, very slightly. And Bakugo's like, "The fuck is she? No, she has like a dumbass cat quirk, but hell." So Bakugo is pissed off that she survived, and so he walks down there and tries to punch her. She dodges. He tries to punch again. She dodges again. Then he starts speeding his punches up with explosions. And he starts to land hits. Oh, and by the way, her max copying is 3 people. Like in the original Unordinary. And he starts to land hits. He lands hit after hit after hit. She's bloodied on the ground. And Bakugo goes, "Shitty hair. Finish her off." And he goes, "Okay." And he walks up, hardens his leg, and kicks her right in the face. Then he kicks her again, right in the face again. And all of a sudden, she gets so pissed off, she forgot her promise to that one guy. And she hardens her entire body. Because she has immediate control over what happens with the quirks. And it multiplies to a power of 2 unless it's stronger than hers, then it dumbs down. But she hardens, and Kirishima kicks a fucking steel wall. And he goes, "The fuck? That hurt!" And he looks down and she's hardened. He's like, "She has a fucking quirk." He goes, "I know, dipshit." And he looks up like, "The fuck?" And Kirishima goes, "She has a fucking quirk. What the hell are we supposed to do now?" And Baku goes, "Probably not a fucking good quirk. It's like your shitty hair. It's hardening." And she stands up at this point because she's fucking pissed. And she walks over to Bakugo and goes, "Leave me the fuck alone." And she's just as tall as Bakugo. Actually, a little taller. And he goes, or what? And she grabs his face and lights explosions in his face. And she says, if you don't, I'm gonna fucking kill your ass. And she slams him to the ground and then walks away, deactivating the quirks. And there was somebody off to the side watching. So he uses his quirk to keep track of Joe. Isaac, or Eisen, whatever you want to call him. Isaac, the hunter in Unordinary, is who I'm adding to the story. So he follows Joe, keeps an eye on her for the next few weeks, and then when Seraphina gets back, he says this to Seraphina that Joe has a quirk, and she's hiding it. And Seraphina goes, no. Joe doesn't have a quirk. All she has is that mutation on her head. And he goes, no. She has a quirk. I swear. I've seen it. Bakugo got his ass whooped by it. And she goes, the only one who can whoop Bakugo's ass is me. And that's sad. Because his quirk's not even that strong. And he goes, no. She whooped his ass with his quirk. And she goes, no. That couldn't be possible. Because she doesn't have a copying quirk. She has a cat quirk that gives her the ears and tail. And they're actually kind of cute. And he goes, okay. And he feels this death stare upon him. And he's like, oh crap, I forgot I bumped into her earlier. I gotta go before I die. And Seraphina goes, okay. We start the next school year with entrance exams. And Joe has to go through the entrance exams every year or she gets kicked out of UA. So she goes through the entrance exams and Nezu is currently watching and he sees that she is not using her quirk. And he's like, what? Why isn't she using her quirk? Because last time she didn't use her quirk and he was a little weirded out by that. This time she's not using her quirk again. And he's like, why isn't she using her quirk? So he goes to Aizawa, who's their homeroom teacher, and asks, what did she put herself down as when they introduced each other? And he goes, she put herself down as quirkless. Well, only had that mutation part. And he goes, okay. Better hide that file then. And he goes, yeah, it's either that or we all die. I prefer not to die. So he goes back in his sleeping bag and he lays down and goes to sleep. And Seraphina was behind the door being like, what? And she didn't hear Joe's name, and they're talking about a girl. And Nezu literally said, what did this girl put down as her quirk? And Aizawa, who knows Seraphina, said, she's hanging out with that pink-haired chick, and she put herself down as only had that mutation part. And Seraphina's starting to put this together, like, what? No, Joe wouldn't lie to me. And Eisen, or Isaac, whatever you want to call him, walks up to Seraphina and says, I have someone that needs to talk to you. And this is a person who has been a victim of Joe before. And Seraphina goes, what? And Eisen pulls up the video conference with this green-haired girl. And this green-haired girl says, you must be the new person Joe's hanging out with. Careful not to anger her, or she will blow up. And Seraphina's like, what do you mean blow up? And so they go through the story of what happened to Joe before Joe went to Japan. And this girl says, if she's hiding her strength, do not test her. Because if you test her, she will blow up. No matter what. And Seraphina's like, how wasn't she originally thought to only have the mutation? And she goes, yeah, I had my future sight and or my basically foresight. She can't copy mutations or psychic quirks. She can only copy physical quirks. So Seraphina's like, oh, um, so why did she go berserk? And she goes, she's had trust issues ever since she read that book. And that book helped with her anger issues, but she's had trust issues too. And Seraphina says, what book? And Joe says, it's currently banned in Japan, but it's called Unordinary. It's not banned here in the US because they just said it as a fiction story. And they lied about the history of the book. And Seraphina goes, what is the history of the book? And Aizen goes, we better not learn it, or we could be very, very, very intensely accused of some illegal stuff. And Seraphina goes, I don't care. And so she says the history of the book that they forged was it was written a long, 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 long time ago, saying that when abilities arrived, that we'd have heroes and stuff on there. But it was actually written 20-ish years ago by Joe's father. And he's on the run currently, but he'll show up every once in a while to celebrate her birthday. And Seraphina gets the full story before she goes and confronts Joe. And we go to the next day, and Seraphina walks up to Joe and says, can I talk to you later? And she goes, sure. Why can't we talk now? And Seraphina says, it's a conversation that needs to be done in private. I'll be right back. I need to eat breakfast. So, it's later that day, and Joe and Seraphina are currently on the roof privately talking. And Bakugo was told to stand at the door, by Joe, to stand at the door, and if he moves, he dies. And Seraphina heard this and was like, what? So Seraphina walks to the edge of the roof so no one can hear her. And Bakugo can't hear her either. And she starts talking to Joe, and Joe confesses to all of it and says that she hoped that she would never have to deal with that life again. And Bakugo started me on this rampage. And Seraphina goes, what do you mean? And Joe pulls out a mask. And she says, I was the vigilante for the last few months, known as Joker. And we go back a few months, and Aizawa is currently running across the rooftops looking for a vigilante known as Joker. This vigilante apparently has cat ears, a cat tail, with dog ears and a dog tail. There's one cat ear, one dog ear, and a cat tail and a dog tail. And Joe turns into the form of the one cat and one dog. And she says, I was the vigilante for a good bit. And Seraphina goes, no, 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 no. You're the nicest person on campus. And she goes, yeah, no. And Seraphina goes, you're lying. You're bullshitting this. No, no. And Joe goes, I am. You found out everything, I'm guessing. And Seraphina goes, yeah? I don't believe it. And Joe goes, okay. Shake my hand. And Seraphina does, and they shake, and she goes, okay, activate your quirk. And Seraphina activates her quirk, basically Chronos, and making a bubble around her where time slows down. And Joe does the same thing. And she starts walking around in Seraphina's time bubble and goes, strong quirk. Sadly, I had to give up the Pomeranian's quirk. And Seraphina goes, bullshit. That's not possible. Bullshit. And Seraphina is having her mind blown, and Joe goes, yeah. The only reason why I got into UA was because of the strength of my quirk and me being a convicted felon. And Seraphina goes, no, that can't be possible. And every time Seraphina says, no, that's not possible, Joe starts to raise her voice because she's getting irritated that Seraphina's not trusting her. And she finally snaps and says, you don't trust me after all this time we've been together. I finally tell you my big secret that you've already figured out, and you don't even goddamn trust me. This happened at my last school, and this is gonna happen again. Why? Why does no one trust me anymore? And she starts to cry, and Seraphina sees this and is like, oh crap. I just heard Joe. And while they're let's say this. While they're on the roof, and Joe's currently breaking down, having a mental breakdown, Seraphina comes near her and Joe snaps at her, being like, fuck off! I don't need anybody fucking to help me. I don't need anybody anymore. Fuck off. Go away. And Seraphina hears this and is like, oh crap. It was true. And Joe starts to cry even more, and she uses one of the quirks that she's been storing because this quirk is very rare. She has a teleport quirk. So she brings up a warp gate, walks through it, and shuts it. And Seraphina's like, oh crap. And she texts Joe on her phone, and it's just left on red. And Seraphina goes, crap. I just lost my best friend. And so we go to the first day of school, and Joe is not in her normal attire. She's in pissed off attire, so she doesn't give a shit what she wears. And she walks into class, and her eyes are slight glowing, because when she is pissed off, her eyes glow, and her power increases like the Spartan Rage for Kratos. But she walks to the back where her seat is, and she sits down. And everybody sees her and is like, okay. And they treat her like normal. Until lunch. Someone goes up to beat her up because she's a useless person. And one hand on her gets snapped immediately. She forces him to the floor and says, don't fucking touch me. And her eyes are glowing red now. And he sees this and he's fucking scared. He shits himself. And she goes, including you, perv. And she looks over at the guy that was standing near him and goes, oh, you're the perv brothers. Kaminari, Dinky, and Mineta. I don't even give a shit about your last name. Just Mineta. If you fucking come near me again, I'm gonna fucking snap your neck. Both of you. And she walks away, and everybody saw that. And Mineta and Kaminari aren't that weak. Mineta may have ball sack head. I have a ball sack quirk, but his strength is a little stronger than Cannon, so he can lift roughly 100 pounds. And Kaminari can lift around 200. So they're not weak at all. It's just Joe is 10 times stronger than everybody. Because she traded out Kirishima's quirk for a strength quirk, and she traded out Serafina's quirk for Bakuro's quirk again. But she keeps the warp quirk near her. She keeps the warp quirk at all times. So she is currently running around campus, making sure every bully knows that they can't fucking bully anybody. And she has the Joker mask on when she goes and beats people up. Everybody knows that Joe is pissed off now. Just, they don't know how she got so strong. And everybody's just speculating that she just did normal workouts on a scale of 10 times more. Which she does, but not to the scale that's needed for that strength. Oh, crap. Whoa. I'm stretching. I'm still tired from this morning. I just woke up. But Joe is currently beating people up, and Serafina sees her and goes, "Joker, stop!" And she looks at Serafina and goes, and in a deep, raspy voice, she goes, "What do you want?" And this doesn't sound like Joe's voice. And Serafina flinches at this. It goes, "I'd like to talk to you." And she goes, "I don't care. Fuck off." And she starts to isolate herself again, like she did in the last school. And she believes that no one will trust her. And Serafina finally goes to Nezu saying Joe's having trust issues. And Nezu goes, "Okay, let me call 2 people." So he calls Naomasa, and he calls the guy who helped Joe with her rehabilitation before. And Naomasa walks in and sees this man and goes, "Why are you here?" And Nezu sees his reaction and says, "I called him. We have a student that went through his rehabilitation program." And Naomasa goes, "You have a student that unstable here? Everybody that goes through his program is hella unstable." And Nezu goes, yes, we do have one, but she was stable until one of her classmates talked to her about something. And he goes, "If it's about the last school, that's why it's unstable. Anything from their past makes them unstable and makes them lash out. Because they're like an injured animal." And now Masa goes, "No, they're not like an injured animal. They're like a rabid beast when you're done with them. But you caged it. So you're literally putting all that anger and hatred in a cage. It's gonna break at some point." And he goes, No, I help with the releasing of the anger and rage." And now Masa goes, "Ben, what the fuck do you call my son that went through your program?" I'm aging Naomasa up to 40. And Nezu goes, "What do you mean?" And Naomasa goes, "My fucking son went to America for a little excursion, and he accidentally read something that he shouldn't have in America. It was called the Gutsy Ninja Naruto, I think it was. And it was talking about heroes that are heroes just to be heroes. And we have a book like that here in Japan called Unordanary, where it's outlawed to read. But in America, they changed the backstory of the book. So no one knows it actually was 20 years ago that it was written. Unlike the Gutsy Ninja that was written like 3,000 years ago. And he explains the history of the books, and he says that the Unordinary basically predicted that there will be one day a vigilante that's so strong that they kill all the villains, and they help break down the goddamn society we have built up. But we're already trying to break down this society in the Japanese police force because we think this society is bullshit. And he voices his opinion, and Nezu agrees with his opinion a little. And Namasa says, when my son came back from his class, he wouldn't talk to me for a month because I knew exactly what he did. And when I started talking to him about it, he lashed out, and he was an asshole after. I can't even go in his room without him throwing shit at me. And he goes, that's not my problem. You brought up the past. And now Masa goes, yeah, we're supposed to talk through it, not him acting like a wounded animal and a rabid beast at the same time when I start talking about it. You mess people's minds up. You don't heal them. You don't rehabilitate them. You fuck them up even worse. And he goes, I do what I'm told. And now Masa goes, I don't give a shit. Now leave! Before I fucking arrest you for messing up young people's minds. And Nezu's actually voicing his opinion and goes, now Masa, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but don't arrest him until after he explains what he did to this young Josephina. And he goes, fine, explain and then I'll arrest you. And he goes, you can't arrest me. I'm needed back in Washington in 3 days. So I'll explain and then I'll be on my way. And he goes, oh, hell no. You need to pay for your crimes. And he goes, I'm sorry, but the embassy will get me out. And he goes, they could try. So he explains what he did to Joe. He explains that every time Joe saw the book, she would see the horrors that she's done, and if she started reading it, she would relive the horrors that she's done, and in a worse fashion. So, if she just beat them half to death, she'd see them dead on the ground, all of her friends, and she would feel all the guilt of beating them to death. And now Masa's like, the fuck? And he goes, oh, and her father wrote the book Unordinary. And now Masa's like, the fuck? And he goes, yeah. And now Masa goes, why the fuck did you do that? He goes, it was my job. I had to. And now Masa asks Nezu, can I do it? And Nezu goes, sure. I don't see anything. And now Masa pulls back his fist and clocks the guy in the head so hard he's knocked out and says, I feel so much better now. And Nezu goes, I wish I had your strength. I would have done that right when he walked in the door. The first time. And now Masa says, what do you mean the first time? And he goes, I've hated him ever since he first walked in here. So, Nezu calls Joe into his office, and Joe walks in. He's not giving a shit what she does. So she's like, what the fuck do you want, rat? And now Masa goes, I'm here to help you. Not like that, asshole. And he's cuffed up in a chair. And he's waking up. And he says, I'm not like this asshole. And he holds his head up and goes, this asshole is under arrest, by the way. And Joe goes, huh, good. And now Masa says, I would like to take you to a hypnotist to reverse the trauma you've had from reading the book your father wrote. And she goes, I don't fucking need no hypnotist. That shit never worked on me. It's whenever I'm finished reading the book is when I see it. When I relive it. So I never finished the book. And she stares at the other guy, and she's ready to kill him. And Namasa goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm still taking you to a hypnotist to help try and fix the problems that you've had. But if you don't want to be hypnotized fully, we can arrange that. And if you want a safe word that all heroes know, just in case you go on a rampage, we can also program that for you to pass out on this word. So, would you like that? And Joe looks at him and goes, yeah. And she goes, I'm going on a limb here and trusting you. And if you fucking screw me, I'm going to kill everybody at that goddamn police station. And he hears going out on a limb and trusting you. And he goes, okay, I understand. Because he now knows her problem. She has very bad trust issues. So he goes to the hypnotist and he says, oi, Mr. Capress, how you been? And Mr. Capress goes, oh, hi, Namasa. I've been good. What about you? And he goes, I have someone for you to hypnotize. And he goes, what would you like me to do this time? I remember that girl, Azure, that we had to hypnotize. And he goes, yeah, that was like 10-ish years ago. And he goes, yeah, she's a good hero now. And he goes, yeah. And she's really strong. He goes, yeah. So who do you want me to hypnotize now? And he goes, oh, I have this little girl named Joe, and she kind of needs to be hypnotized to have a safe word. And Mr. Press goes, does it have to be a random word, or does it have to be a specific one? And he goes, it has to be a specific one that all heroes could figure out and know. And he goes, how about this? The 10th digit of pi. I do not know all the digits of pi, so if you guys know it, put it in the comments so I can know it next time. And he goes, white pi. And sorry. And he goes, everybody can learn it, but no one will think of it. And all they have to do is whisper because of her enhanced hearing. And Joe goes, yeah. Yeah. And she's sad that she has to resort to something like this, but she's also slightly glad that there's going to be a safe word just in case she goes on a rampage. So she doesn't do what she did last time. And I'm going to end it there. I'm going to leave it off at a cliffhanger of if the hypnotism goes well or not. And Seraphina's reaction to how Joe acts when she gets back. So, you happy, Mina? The next part of Unordanary is out. Jerk. Stop calling me Grandpa!